reporting to you live from my bedroom. First, and most importantly, I'm having a lot of fun with doing my hair. And I did some satin flexi rods last night. And I'm over here on the side because I'm like, look, it bounces. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. But, you know, the curls are fun. So, today we're going to be talking about two main things. Obviously, we're going to be going over more of the Google search monopoly. There's two monopoly cases. The search monopoly trial exhibits. We'll be continuing some coverage of that. But first, so when I was pulling up material to recap this coverage, there was something popped up to me that was pretty alarming, actually, on the Department of Justice website. And I wanted to show it to you guys. At the time of this, if you go to the justice.gov website, anywhere on it, it's showing up for me. I don't know how long that's gonna be a pop-up on the website, but it's there for me as of now, as of today. So what we're gonna do is read the wording of this pop-up, and I'll discuss with you an act, a law that I believe it violates, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I'm not an attorney, so perhaps I'm wrong if this doesn't apply, but I think it does. And we'll go over that. And yeah, and then we're going to continue our search monopoly coverage, and I think I'm repeating myself. I don't know. Oh yeah, and I'll recap everything before we continue the coverage. But yeah, fucking, okay, I'm gonna roll my intro, and then we're gonna get right on into it. Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deaf Child 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Okay, so first things first, I believe that the Department of Justice may have violated the Hatch Act. And we'll go over what that is first, actually. So the Hatch Act is basically, it restricts federal employees' involvement in partisan political activity. Partisan political activity is any activity directed toward the success or failure of a partisan candidate, political party, or partisan political group. Violation of the Hatch Act may result in disciplinary action, to include removal from federal employment. Employees should consult with the Departmental Ethics Office before engaging in any partisan political activity. Okay. And then there are 3 different classes under this, including senior executive service, administrative law judges, administrative appeal judges, contract appeal board members, employees of certain intelligence or enforcement agencies or offices are the most restricted group. And they said most other employees are in the lesser restricted group. This group may participate in certain political activity, but only in a purely personal, not official capacity. And then it still says presidentially appointed, Senate confirmed, but that's different. But it says subject to special Hatch Act rules. They're less constrained because obviously to be a member of the, that's politically affiliated, right? But they can only do certain political activity, purely personal, not official, right? And the representatives, I'm assuming, have something to do up in here, but maybe I'm wrong. But I'm assuming they have some sort of restrictions as well. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah. So basically, there's rules to it, including no use of official authority, no fundraising, no partisan political activity at work, and they include listing like wearing the government uniform, badge, or insignia, things of that nature, privately owned vehicles, and candidacy for public office. So all of that, right? So this is where I'm getting my mindset from. And I want you guys to look at, can you see it? Apologies. Look, if you look at the government shutdown alert for the U.S. Department of Interior, it's actually not bad, right? It says, due to the current lapse of federal appropriations, you know, there's nothing that puts any shift on any sort of political party here. It's just saying, all of you bitches suck, right? It's not saying which one of you bitches suck. But basically it says this website may not be up to date. Transactions submitted via this website might not be processed. Am I saying shit right? Who knows? Well, you know, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not talking. Anyway, transactions submitted via this website might not be processed until appropriations are enacted, and we may not be able to respond to inquiries until appropriations are enacted. Okay, so now look at this and let's compare it to the next one here, which, can y'all even see this? Maybe I should have zoomed in. Here, I'm going to zoom in. Anyway, too late now, but we're moving on. So this next one right here at the very top, the Department of Justice right now at justice.gov, all of their web pages for me, you know, it says Democrats have shut down the government. It doesn't have it on the trial exhibits because those are separate documents that are just linked through the website. But like on all of the actual website pages, this is what I was seeing. I wonder if they've updated it. Nope. That's just like what it says. Yeah. On all of the Department of Justice web pages for me right now, it says Democrats have shut down the government. Department of Justice websites are not currently regularly updated. Please refer to the Department of Justice's contingency plan for more information. So, am I not mistaken for believing that the Department of Justice is a federal agency? Am I not mistaken for believing that according to the Hatch Act, they're not supposed to be putting anything on here that is blaming another party for whether or not the government is shut down? Am I wrong for thinking that this is a violation of the Hatch Act? Or is this a violation of the Hatch Act? It's just a question. And again, you know, like, I'm personally not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm kind of against both parties. I can typically get along with more Democrats on the surface level in a lot of cases, because a lot of Democrats claim to be more progressive than they actually are, and so you think you're in a safe space until you realize you're not. But that's why Democrats are just as dangerous as Republicans. But is this captioning working? Fuck, I can't tell. Okay, I think it is. It's just being finicky. Anyway. Yeah, so fucking, what was I bitching about? Politics, right? So, but I really do believe that whether or not you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're just upholding colonialism unless you're just supporting tribal sovereignty. And like right now, everybody's talking about, oh, there's gonna be a revolution, blah, 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 but none of them care about tribal sovereignty. When I say, what point is there in a revolution unless we're gonna actually say, like, let's let our tribal leaders be sovereign of this land? They all say, no, we're just gonna pick another colonizer. Native Americans don't exist anymore, even though Native Americans still here, we're still here, but, you know, fun talk. But then Democrats want to talk about decolonizing, but they don't want to decolonize, they just want to keep colonizing. So Republicans, you at least see it coming, but Democrats is like, they act nice, but they're not, you know? Yeah. Anyway, so, and that's why I have no subscribers, because I don't like any of you fucks, unless you're indigenous. Anyway, I'm sorry. But I'm kind of kidding. Anyway. So, yeah. I'm not an attorney. I don't know shit about the law. I'm just a little bitch looking at some shit over here like, that don't look right, right? And if you look at the difference in their disclaimer, and you could say, like, I just admitted, that I typically can have more of a civil conversation with a Democrat than a Republican in some situations, because Democrats they don't like to be perceived as believing what they're acting on. So, for example, they'll be arguing with you about if it's okay to call you a slur, and they'll keep calling you a slur, but then they'll keep saying, yeah, I'm not racist, or I'm not ableist, or, things of that nature, but then they'll keep using discriminatory words against you, and then claiming like they just don't know better, even though you just corrected them. They'll then claim, well, you're just one person of that community, so why should they listen to you? And then they'll say they have a friend in your community who said they could say, anyway, so, yeah, I would have a problem if this said Republicans have shut down the government or Democrats have shut down the government, because when you're the Department of Justice and you're a judge, like, in the Department of Justice, am I mistaken for thinking that this is related to our judicial system, right? So, am I not mistaken for believing that should be like a unbiased situation? And I understand that as a human, everybody has their personal biases no matter what. We can't control it. It's a human nature to be biased towards something. It's not, if you're not biased, you're not admitting, in my opinion, or maybe you really are shut off, because some people can go through stages of their life of being more numb to their emotions, or they will intentionally numb their emotions through medications and substances. But like, my point is fucking, like, what was my point? Well, we all have biases. That was my point. In my opinion, like, some people will just admit it, but I believe you can still have a bias, but still look at something from an unbiased way and look at all sides of it. And there are people who can even change their opinions on things. And I mean, like, everybody can change their opinions on things given what happens, right? But some people, they just don't ever change in certain ways. So, but yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, my point is, I understand we all have biases and shit, but, like, I believe that the Department of Justice isn't supposed to be, as a collective, biased towards any certain political party in any situation. And if they're gonna make some sort of statement like that, then I believe that they need to approach it the same way that they would have to with any other trial. Like, how are you allowed to, as the Department of Justice, put an allegation on a political party without any evidence to the public to back it up? You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna say that, then give us the fucking evidence. But they didn't. Like, so it doesn't seem unbiased to me. And, like, the evidence should reflect both sides and have arguments on all sides, But yeah, that's why I feel like I don't know, it's unethical in my opinion. Like, how do you expect to have a biased judicial system, like an unbiased judicial system, that is publishing biased words? Capstone didn't get that, but whatever. Oh, it did. Oh, okay. But anyway, sorry for that ramble. That took way longer than I meant to. But yeah, that just, like, really threw me off. It really threw me off. But anyway, so next up, I'm gonna try to recap the last live stream we did on the trial exhibits. We just went through 3 of them. We are at 111 so far, and I think we've got 106 more to go, if I counted that right. But yeah, so last time we looked at an email between Jim Kolotouros of Google and a bunch of other Google employees, but they were talking about an Android deal negotiation from 2019. So this is 2019, and in these negotiation talking points, they are basically talking about should they hold the line indefinitely, meaning hold their position on the revenue share agreement, because the whole point of this was the guy they were negotiating with wanted more money from their revenue share agreement to agree to their certain terms. So then they were literally the very first email that we're seeing is they're asking a question of what they should do, but I don't know what their answer was to that because we don't see that in these emails. But they were asking, should they hold the line indefinitely until they lose it, get it done now, so as long as they're within headroom of payment capacity, which tells me, in my opinion, they did have more money that they could have allotted to that. They were just deciding whether or not they should, or they had the authority to give them that. But anyway, or third, allow a couple of their employees to basically say, okay, we'll pay you more if it gets it done at the meeting. Which is basically 2 and 3 seem like it's kind of the same thing, but in different words, in my opinion. But I'm reading from the email right now. But yeah, so they basically say, that in the email they think either of those three would get it done, and they're just basically in the email chain. The rest of the email conversation was they were talking about whether or not they should give him more money, and a lot of it is redacted, so we don't get to see a good bit of it. But they were also going over the deal terms, and in it does include for exclusivity that they want to secure all exclusivity provisions. So yeah, so they were going for exclusivity by 2019. And in the last live stream, I had also Googled, so we saw in 2012 they were not holding Apple to exclusivity in their deal, but by 2019 they were. And I believe that 2017 voice search is when they started really hammering down on those exclusivity deals, because they were having these deals with Google to have Google as a default placement, but it wasn't necessarily contingent on exclusivity. And so the default placement was just on certain places, such as in browsers. But then when the voice search was coming out, they were getting the answers from those results initially from other places. And Google saw that and was like, oh no, we need to lock that down. And that is where I believe we see the exclusivity provisions come into play, in my opinion. And so the next email we looked at on that note was an email between Apple and Google employees, and it was a draft term sheet, and this was from 2012. And so we saw in this point at 2012, the main thing that stood out for me was this was a term agreement for revenue share, but they did not obligate Apple to have Google search as their default in this agreement at this time. But we did see in other evidence and other trial exhibits that they ended up doing that. And so yeah. And then we just went through 3 of those trial exhibits last time. So the third and last one we went over was an email between Google employees about a BC deal review. And honestly, I don't know what the fuck BC stands for. I'm assuming British Columbia, but that could be fucking wrong. Like, I'm just making shit up right now. But anyways, because sometimes, those acronyms, it is what I think it is, but sometimes it's some other shit, and I'm like, whoop, that wasn't it. But yeah, it was about a deal review agenda. And so in this deal review, they were talking about their negotiations with Samsung. And so they were talking about there were challenges in alignment on the revenue share amount. Oh, and I forgot to say what year this is from. This is from 2017. And then they were talking about how they got Samsung to sign a new mobile application distribution agreement. And that is the license for Android device to pre-install the Google apps and APIs and ship those with the device. This disagreement. It requires that the Google apps are preloaded, that the widget are preloaded on the default home screen, that, okay, Google wasn't able to invoke Google Assistant, and that the long press on the home defaults to Google. And all of these things are really important because in other trial exhibits, we had also seen where the Department of Justice has shown that the default placement was the way that Google was able to control user retention from their initial user acquisition. The reason being, when something is the default, a lot of people don't want to change it. You know what I mean? And so if you can secure a default setting, you're more likely to keep users who are satisfied with that, because they'll only leave it if they prefer something else or if they're unsatisfied. You know, in a lot of cases. So yeah. Okay. So from there, we're going to keep going and see just how many we can get through. I think I could do probably about another hour tops or so of streaming today. Let's see. So next up here, we are back to emails. We got an email from Eddy Q of Apple. Oh shit, I keep forgetting to say these thingies. It doesn't really matter. I don't know. It kind of helps me keep track of where I am though, so fuck it. Okay, we got exhibit UPX0594, and this is an email from Eddy Q of Apple to Tim Cook of Apple, and it's a reply about Google from January 2016. And this is filed September 27, 2023. Okay. So, it's from Eddy Q of Apple to Tim Cook of Apple. You know, every time we see these meetings from other people about Google, I wonder, like, how much of it was revealed where it's shit that, like, they didn't want revealed to Google, you know? Like, just imagine working at a company and then all this shit you talked about for either your competitors or the people you have to do business with privately and internally was then made public, and you still had contracts with those people. Talk about awkward, right? Anyway, sorry. Okay, so the email says, well, it's only two things in the chain. So the first thing that was said in here was Tim Cook had first written, "How did the meeting go?" I don't think I said that word right. What the fuck? Anyway, and that was Tim Cook, and then Eddy had answered, "Good, except for the revenue share. Did not come back with a specific number, but said there was no way he could make redacted work. He tried to say we pay you more than anyone. Numbers aren't increasing, and I will pay you for everything. So we should keep it at redacted." And then some other shit is redacted. And then it says, I told him that... Oh, okay, I'm not processing. My bad. It says, I told him that him and I need to sit down alone next week and agree to the economic terms, or we shouldn't move forward. Well, obviously they moved forward, so they came to an agreement. I wonder who won that. Anyway. And then next up, we got exhibit UPX0605. And this is a Google presentation. And it's called OC Deal Review. And it's from June 22nd, 2009. Hey. And this was filed November 8th, 2023. Okay, this one's not too long. You never, some of those presentations, like at the beginning of these trial exhibits, they were fucking like 100 pages long. I was like, God damn. Okay. Ready? Okay. Like totally freaked me out. I mean, right on. Sorry. OC Deal Review. Agenda for June 22nd, 2009. Apple. Safari Desktop Search. Jeff Shardell was item number 1. My bad. Item number 2. Celtic? Shit. Honestly, I don't really know how to pronounce that word. It's Celtic, right? No, it's not. Oh, fuck. You know what? How the fuck do I say this word? Oh. First of all, I should probably try typing it, right? How the fuck do you say this? Dude, I'm stupid. I don't know. Hold on.
Celtic or Celtic? How do we pronounce it? Well, in Ireland, typically we say Celtic with a K sound. We do say Celtic sometimes, like for the Glasgow Celtic soccer.
Ah, you know, that might explain why I was so confused though, because I feel like I have heard it both ways. Alright. So apparently Irish people call it Celtic, but other people call it whatever the fuck they want. I don't know. Sorry. So I feel like I'm a joke because I'll be over here like, I am so smart, guys. Trust me. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. How do you say basic shit? Anyway, but whatever. Life is hard. So this was, item number 2 was going to be presented by David Lowy or some shit like that. Moving on. Okay. So for partnership overview from Apple, it says Google is currently Safari browser's default search setting for Mac, Windows, and devices. Redacted revenue share after redacted costs. Mac or Window deal expires on redacted 2009. Does that really matter? Whatever. I'm like, okay, I get why they're redacting the revenue agreements and things of that nature, but like I don't understand why they're redacting dates. Or am I wrong for being confused about that, right? So then it says device deal expires redacted 2010. Then it says redacted gross revenue May 2008 through June 2009 on desktop partnership. Q1 2009 desktop gross revenue equals redacted. This is confidential for internal use. We are not sharing this externally. Don't worry, nobody looks at me. Anyway, summary of executed deal terms. Term. Current desktop deal expires redacted 2009. Product Google search. Pricing redacted revenue share, redacted operating costs for Safari default search. Exclusivity. Google set as default search provider on Safari Chrome for Mac and Windows. Guarantee to partner, none. Guarantees from partner, none. Termination or other issues. The mobile deal expires on redacted 2010. Mobile revenue share is redacted after redacted cost. Renewal summary. Google's offer. Redacted desktop extension through redacted 2010 and reduction of desktop revenue share to redacted of net revenue after redacted operating costs from redacted. And a change from redacted of gross to redacted of gross. Renewal summary. Apple's counter. Redacted extension. Redacted for desktop and redacted for devices. Existing revenue share unchanged. Redacted. New Apple ask. The option but not the obligation to set Google as the default search provider. Under current terms, they get no revenue if we aren't set as default. New Apple ask. Revenue share when Google is not set as the default. See chart below. No revenue share under current deal. And whatever the terms are here are redacted, but we can see the elements are whether or not Google is set as default, as well as if it's hardware preloaded or software only. Honestly, I'm just like, I don't even know if I used the concept of term and element correctly there, but fuck it. You know what the fuck I meant. Close enough. Anyway, recommendations and options. Options. Agree to Apple's terms. Not recommended. Maintain hardware deal as is. And then that's redacted and it says not recommended. So they're like, I don't recommend these options, but they exist. Anyway, and then it says adjust existing deal with reduced revenue share terms. And that's redacted. It says do not adjust the mobile deal until we get closer to deal expiration. Recommended. And it says, are we prepared to block? Apparently they were not. But it's funny though to me because I was thinking, why would you put options that you wouldn't recommend in your presentation? But then I guess in my head it's so they could be like, look bitch, I already thought about this shit. I don't want to fucking hear it. Sorry, I don't know. Anyway, so then it says rationale. The current desktop deal pays AAPL, more than 100% of incremental revenue. Honestly, I have no fucking clue what that means, and I'm not even looking it up. And then it says lower revenue share is justified. And then Apple's terms attempt to impose a tax on all Google.com revenue through Safari and their devices. And last but not least, issues or risks. AAPL. Why do I think... Okay, now I do want to look it up. I was like, I'm not looking it up. Look at me. Oh, that's Apple. Oh, that's the NASDAQ, whatever the fuck, acronym. Short. That's not an acronym if it's shortened, isn't it? So whatever it is. Abbreviation. Duh. Life is hard. I'm still drinking my coffee. You should judge me. But it says, Apple could decide to work with an alternate provider for the desktop or Safari search solution. And then, Apple Safari Financial Overview. Third-party browsers, financial performance. We've got Mozilla Firefox, Apple Safari, Opera, and Netscape. And then it's showing the revenue per million between 2007 and 2008, but it's redacted. And honestly, the fuck is TAC percentage? Total acquisition cost? This AI overview said total active cannabinoids. I like that answer better. I don't know. In my head, I think of total acquisition cost, but that can't be right. I'm gonna go with total active cannabinoids. Anyway, so then it says Apple deal terms. Redacted revenue share after redacted deduction for operating costs across 3 platforms: Safari for Mac, Safari for Windows, and iPhone or iPod. Desktop contract is up for renewal and redacted 2009. I'm over here like, what if I've dropped this shit? It's kind of getting a little... It's fine, it's over. Top countries by revenue in 2009, and then we can see it in order, but the revenue is redacted, but in order it's United States, United Kingdom, Germany, and France. Top countries by traffic, same thing, we can see it in order, but the traffic numbers are redacted, or percentage, or whatever the fuck they did it by. It says United States, United Kingdom, France, and Canada. And last slide here, oh, of course it's redacted. Apple Safari historical desktop and mobile performance. So on one side it says Apple desktop partnerships, and it's got the total revenue versus the payments and the net revenue. And on the other side we got Apple mobile partnership, total revenue, payments, net revenue, but it's all redacted. But at the bottom of this it says revenue share terms are redacted for both desktop and mobile. Desktop estimated payment or incremental revenue is greater than 100%. And then for a footnote, it says payment, I don't know if they mean like payment over incremental revenue or payment or, but whatever. It says payment incremental revenue is a measure of the amount Google is paying in relation to an estimate of the new revenue it derives from a partnership. It is a function of search share, where, honestly, I don't even know what the fuck they mean by CUP or CUP data. The fuck. Anyway, is available from United States, UK, and then EMEA. I don't know, man. I'm assuming that's a region, but like, I automatically think of like the Eastern Mediterranean, Eastern Africa area, but that can't be right. Oh, Europe, Middle East. Okay. And Africa. Interesting. Close enough. Fuck it. I told y'all I'm like ignorant about a lot of shit. There's like random shit I know that I feel confident about, but I can be ignorant. So this presentation, I feel like a lot of these numbers were redacted, but basically it is showing in 2009. So there's a difference. They had secure default placement, but not necessarily exclusivity. So the difference being the default placements were where they were the default. That like if you unless you changed it, that was what it was. But when they secured exclusivity for certain things, that meant it was the only option. So when voice search came along, Google was able to secure exclusivity for voice search, where the only place that voice search was getting information from was Google, from certain deals they had, for example. So that would be like the difference there. So in 2009, by then they did have default placement, but they didn't necessarily have exclusivity. And in 2012, we saw in our last live stream, they still did not have exclusivity in their deal terms yet. It wasn't until somewhere between 2012 and 2019, and I believe around 2017 and that era was like the Kickstarter, in my opinion, from what I can tell, if I understand correctly. But yeah, so we did see by 2009 they did definitely have that default placement, and that was my main takeaway from that presentation. So yeah, next up, we got an email from Sidney Lee of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google. Fuck, I forgot again. This is UPX0608. Fuck it. Whatever. Email from Sidney Lee to Jim Kolotouros for Android OEM Revenue Share 3.0. OEM is operating equipment manufacturer. And this is from September 9th, 2020, filed October 30th, 2023. Alrighty. So, it's from Sidney Lee to Jim Kolotouros, Christopher Lee, Toru Kawamura. I'm sorry, I think I'm saying that wrong. And Android OEM Revenue Share 3.0. So it's a forwarded message. The original message was from Iram Rahman of Google, and it was to Nicholas Booth of Google, and CC'd was Victor Padron, Jacqueline Wilson, Christopher Lee, Sidney Lee. So yeah, definitely saying everybody's names wrong. Sorry guys. And it said, thanks all, adding for 5:30 p.m. on June 8th for now. And before that, Nicholas View had said, Parisa can match on Monday, June 8th, 5:30 to 6 Pacific time, and Thursday, June 11th, 4:30 to 5, 5:30 to 6 Pacific time. And then before that, Victor had said, hi, Arum, Matt can match all three as well. June 8th, 5 to 6, June 11th, 4:30, 5:30. Best, Victor. Okay, I guess they're arranging meeting times. And then Jacqueline Wilson had said, all three work for my group. Thank you, your own. Cheers, Jackie. And then before that, it doesn't say who it's from. I just see who to. But the subject, but the email to Jim Kolotouros, Aram Rahman, Darby Brennan, Matt Waddell. Sorry, Parisa Tabriz. I'm definitely saying these names wrong. With Donald Harrison, CC. It says, LOL, in all seriousness, I had understood there were some scenarios where this may not be the case, but glad to hear I was wrong. Yes, a chat with you, Chris, and Sidney sounds great. Iram Rahman can help schedule. Let's include Darby Brennan, Matt Waddell, and Parisa Tabriz from my end, please. Thanks, A. Before that, Jim Kolotouros had written, done. I think that somebody forgot to tell Anil that Sundar authorized the removal of Chrome from Google Mobile Services a few months ago. How do you suggest we break the news? Oops, I included Anil on the thread. Anil, kidding aside, we never deviate from mobile application distribution obligations in Chrome distribution via Google Mobile Services. No exceptions. But let's set up some time to walk you through the operating equipment manufacturer regional commitments via revenue share agreements. We can include Chris and Sidney from my team as well. Will that work? So yeah, And then fucking before that, Anil had written, fantastic. Would love to learn more at some point. Which operating equipment manufacturers, countries, etc. Let me know if it would be okay to set up a time. Were there any devices or countries where Chrome is no longer distributed as part of Google mobile services? Also happy for you to answer that question live if preferred. Thanks again, A. Oh, okay, so it looks like A was Anil, and so that other email where we couldn't see who it was from, I'm assuming that was Anil because it looks like it's signed the same way with a period at the end. But I could be wrong. Because Google has so many employees. How many other people could have a name with an A and sign it like that? But yeah, I actually met a chick with name Alexis, and she always began her signature by signing the A as a star. I thought that was cute. Okay, sorry, I'm distracted. Pumpkin. Where was I? Shit, my bad, y'all. What had happened was. Oh yeah, you know this part where they're talking about if you want to answer the question live if preferred, like if you don't want to put that in writing, is entertaining to me. Oh, corporate. Anyway, and so then before that, Jim Kolotouros had written 342M. I'm assuming that means 342 million, but perhaps I'm wrong. But yeah. Oh, god damn it. My fucking captioner isn't working. Fuck. Okay. I think before the captioner cut off, all that was really missed was that I was reading this email and it says 342M and fucking, I'm assuming they mean 342 million, but I could be wrong. So yeah. And before that, Donald Harrison had put 2 question marks. And before that, there was a forwarded message from Anil. Oh, okay. I'm assuming he's forwarding that message. Never mind. That's how I'm reading, processing. I think with the forwarded message from Anil to Donald and others, it says, congrats. I didn't see Chrome in your list of apps where Hot Seat was secured. Any details there you can share? And then before that, Donald had written, I wanted to send out a quick note to recognize the closure of a truly one Google effort that was made possible by hundreds of Googlers across multiple product areas. The counter-signature of revenue share agreements with most of our major Android operating equipment manufacturers, including, and it's a bunch of redacted shit here, it says the scope and impact of each deal varies in terms of 1. Length, 2. Products or services covered, and 3. Commitments measured in preload, placement, default, and discoverability. But here is a quick summary of how many devices in total were protected. I'm not saying protected. It says were projected pre-COVID. We will share more as soon as we have certainty around post-COVID numbers to be covered over the combined deals over the next few years. And then whatever the devices are, it just keeps saying like redacted devices with for 4 different bullet points. So these 4 different bullet points say redacted devices with core search and assistant protections, devices with Discover on the -1 screen, devices with dedicated assistant buttons, devices with enhanced letters updates. Yeah, and then it says here is the rundown of devices where distribution, enhanced discoverability, and defaults were secured. That is, prominent placement of the hot seat, default home screen, and +1 screens. Search for Lens, News, Podcast, or Google board. And then the rundown for in terms of these numbers, it's all redacted, but these are what they're looking at. Calm Suite, Messages, Dialer, Contacts, Duo, Productivity, Google One, Files. Don't know what the fuck they mean by DSS, and I'm not looking it up. Calendar, Payments for Google Pay. IoT, did they mean Internet of Things? I don't know. Home or Fit. It says incremental dedicated SUW screens to promote Google services for redacted devices. Thank you to everyone who contributed to make this happen. Every function and PA, I wonder if they mean like, I don't know, but NPA played a role in helping land each deal, and there are a lot of folks left off this distribution who played a huge role. Feel free to forward on with my thanks and apologies. I'd like to especially recognize the P&E OEM Partnerships team under Jim K, including Sidney Lee, Chris Lee, Toru Karumara, I'm definitely saying that wrong, sorry, and their teams, along with Kate Lee from Legal and Yuki Richardson from Finance and their respective teams, for being the tip of the spear and leading the revenue share engagement with these OEMs and coordinating the huge army of support behind them. Thank you, done. Okay. Alright, so this one, it's only 3 pages, but I feel like these 3 pages has a lot of information. So, basically though, it looks like they were talking about being satisfied with a project and an initiative they had to secure, they call it a one Google effort, where they are trying to secure combined deals related to search and assistant protections, discovered dedicated buttons and enhanced updates, and they put this with multiple devices and enhanced discoverability and defaults secured. So they're talking about expanding not only in terms of the types and the amount of devices that they're securing these placements on, but also where in these devices are they getting these placements on as this technology evolves, right? So yeah, so that's what we're looking at. What year are we in again? 2020. And this is 2020. Obviously, they're talking about COVID, so that makes sense. So this is like right after COVID. And so, yeah. And then Anil had asked a question after that she didn't see Chrome in the list of apps where Hot Seat was secured. I believe that would be because from what we know, Chrome has already been secured, and so these are updates with new placements. You know what I'm saying? And so that's probably why he forwarded that message with the questions marks, like, how the fuck do you not realize that we've been having that shit secured? Like, that's the whole way their business model was built at this point. As we've seen, we've been looking at these agreements since 2009, 2010, 2012. They've had these types of default placements with Chrome. So, you know what I mean? So that's probably, I'm making assumptions here. I am here, like, speculating. So that's why I would have probably forwarded that message to a coworker with some question marks, like, question, thinking, how did this bitch not know, like, how you worked in this company? Why is this captioner not working? So, yeah. Anyway. So that's kind of what I got from that. And in here, they also, one of the reasons I'm assuming that it's probably, that this is probably also put into these trial exhibits, it's literally saying we never deviate from distribution agreement obligations and Chrome distribution. No exceptions. So, and we know at this point that because of the history of these deals and because of how the technology evolved, a lot of these devices, if they don't have Google, these are just empty bricks that don't work, because you can only get apps from Google Play stores and things of that nature. Like, the entire way that the software in a lot of these devices run is through Google. And so they have these companies by the balls, because they can basically be like, okay, well, if you don't agree to our terms, then we're no longer giving you permission to use us. You know what I'm saying? And they don't have their systems were not made for and built to switch over at this point in a lot of ways. With a lot of the past technology and products that they built, it was all made to run on these other operating systems through Google, right? And so to change that, it would have to be through new devices, or they would have to figure out a way to update the old devices to put these apps on them. But right now, for a lot of these devices, the only way to get an app on them is through the Google Store. Things, you know what I mean? Like, it's a thing. So, yeah. Alrighty, I think I might have time for one more. Let me see how long this next one is, and let's see if I have time for it today. Oh, that's only a couple pages. I should have time. If I can pull it up right. Whoopsie. I accidentally exited it. But life is hard. Okay, I should have time for one more. And that, I believe, would put us at 115 charlottes if it's covered so far. So, oh, god damn it. Is this not working again? Oh, no, it is. Okay. Alrighty, so let's do another. One more here. We got UPX0609, and this is an email from I never know if you say Anna or Anna, so sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but Anna Kartasheva of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google, and it's about a Samsung revenue share agreement from 2020 term sheet deal 1 from June 4th, 2020. So it's just a term sheet. I don't think it's necessarily the confirmed deal, but I could be wrong. But usually they're relatively close. November 8th, 2023 is when this was filed. So, from Anna Kartasheva of Google, we see this. We don't see. Does it tell us who it's to? Apparently, it's to Jim Kolotouros. But it says the subject is a Samsung revenue share agreement 2020 term sheet bill 1. So Anna Kartasheva added comments and suggestions to the following document. And the comments, it says, with the exception of Bixby and or successors. And we know Bixby is a voice assistant thing, whatever. You know what I mean? And Christopher Lee said, edit based on product direction of search or assistant. And Anna Kartasheva had said, we should add that search within Google Assistant must default to Google, and they can't promote or suggest that end users change that. And then it says all other search access points, launchers, keyboards, Bixby, etc. Google shall be the default for all search access points, and Samsung shall receive revenue share for all designated and future search access points implemented prior to or during the course of the contemplated agreement. So let's reread that one again. Google shall be the default for all search access points, and Samsung shall receive revenue share. Yeah. Anyway, and then it says, Anna Kartasheva, per discussion today on branch, and then it's redacted. And then Anna Kartasheva had also said, add anywhere on a core qualified device. And then it's, it's just got a little auto thing at the bottom that says, you have received this email because you are a participant in the updated discussion threads. Change what Google Docs send you. You cannot reply to this email. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, so that's it. So that's my main takeaway from this whole fucking document right here. Google shall be that's where it's talking by 2020. They're reiterating that Google is the default for all search access. Oh, god damn it. I just realized that my captioner is not working again. How long has that been? God, that's so annoying. I was just reading the fucking document, though. If anybody was wondering. You didn't miss shit. Just reading this shit. But, fucking, what's standing out to me is just Google shall be the default for all search access points, and Samsung shall receive revenue share for all designated and future search access point. So at this point, by 2020, they negotiated, so I had told you guys that I believe when search assistant, not search assistant, well, it is a search assistant, voice assistant, which can use search, but can do other things outside of that too. Was fucking first kind of evolving and becoming more popular across all devices. At that point is when I believe Google was really trying to lock in the exclusivity for these search access points. And now we're seeing by 2020, around COVID, right, let me double check. Is this 2020? Yes. By 2020, that was the case. So, you know what I'm saying? So we are seeing, in my opinion, like that's kind of how we got here. Hop, skip, and a jump away, and we're here now. Where they own this bitch. And it's really interesting because there's so much information, and this is why I keep covering all of this before I recap it. Just a quick little sidetrack here. But did this captioner not working again? Oh, okay. So this is why I keep recapping this shit, right? Because it's so interesting to me. There's so much information that it's easy to just believe that Google is a monopoly because of how much of a giant they are, and anybody that is utilizing these services can see the way that they are dominating the market. But understanding how we got here, these back end deals, the conversations, the negotiations, and everything that led us to this, I think is what every single person in the world for different reasons should be looking at. Like all people on a personal level need to be looking at this, because this is what controls how every single one of us can access information online. Number two, if you're a business owner or in marketing, this is going to explain the history, as well as, in my opinion, show why changes get made in the future and help you predict future trends by understanding the evolution of the history, with what is happening in this field and how we're all going to be able to get found online. And I also think that should apply to anybody in any form of advocacy work or any form of artist, anybody looking to get found online as well. I really think it really is important. So yeah. So now I'm going to try and recap these 4 trial exhibits. Let's see how good of a job I can do. So the first thing that we were looking at was an email conversation between Apple employees from 2016. And they were asking about how the meeting went, and they're talking about how it went well except for the revenue share. And they were thinking about basically being like, if you don't agree to give us more money, we're going to walk away, was at that point what they were saying. But we do see that that didn't end up happening. But I do find that interesting, right? Because I was saying since last stream, I believe it was since 2017, where Google locked in all of these default and exclusivity placements with Apple, and I believe that it was from the evolution of the search. Well, from this document where they were talking about good except for the revenue share, I do believe by 2016, by this point, Google was asking them for more exclusion, for more default placement. And the reason it hadn't happened yet was because Google hadn't agreed to give them more money yet, and Apple wanted more money in order to do that. So I wonder if at the end of it, Apple did get the money that they were asking for, or if they ended up caving because maybe because we also saw in other trial exhibits where Apple made a presentation about would it be financially a good idea to leave Google? And they came to the conclusion that no, it wasn't. They were going to stay with Google for the money. In my opinion, from what I interpreted, right? And so I did find that interesting with this email here, where they're like, even though they had said internally they didn't want to leave Google because of the money, externally to Google, they were like, we'll leave you, fuck your money. You know what I mean? Which I think is kind of entertaining. But anyway, so then after that, we were looking at a presentation from Google employees. It was called OC Deal Review. And it was, yeah. And so in there, though, it was 9 pages, and a lot of it was redacted. So I feel like we don't get to see the numbers on a lot of it, or even the dates on a lot of it. And I'm assuming that's that information is why it was put into court, to show the timeline of when Google was generating revenue from Apple. In my opinion, I believe that's why we're seeing this. But I wasn't able to process much more from it because of how much of it is redacted. But we can see in terms of exclusivity from this presentation that at this point Google was set as the default search provider on Safari, Chrome, for Mac and Windows, it says in here. And so I think that helps us put into context as well the timeline. And so this was by 2010. You know, so yeah. And then after that, we had looked at an email between Google employees about Android operating equipment manufacturer revenue share. And in here, they're basically reiterating, and I think the main, like a lot of things happened in this email chain. They're trying to schedule a meeting to go over information, and this one employee was asking if Chrome was part of the Google mobile services, because it wasn't in the list of new deals that they had secured, but they had been securing that shit. So they were kind of like, of course it is, you know? But basically the main thing that we see here is they're highlighting that they never deviate from tying the mobile application distribution agreement, which is the agreement that allows operating equipment manufacturers, or the people that make the devices we use, to use Google services. But these devices, a lot of them are made to where the only way they operate is through Google. So it's all tied together. And so they never deviate from those obligations in Chrome distribution, is what is put in here. And I believe that's why this email chain was put into evidence, in my opinion, to kind of show that this is a monopoly. Like, look, they're tying the company's ability to operate based on using them as a default, you know? And so then the company has no ability to go elsewhere, or those devices are just bricks. Yeah. And then last but not least, we had looked at an email between Google employees about Samsung revenue share from 2020 as well. And in here, it literally says, like, Google shall be the default for all search access points, and Samsung shall receive revenue share for all designated and future search access points. And so we can see by 2020, they negotiated for them to be the default with Samsung, not only now, but for everything they do in the future as well. So yeah, they were really locking that shit in. And this also fits with the timeline of events of what I've been processing and thinking is happening here of when they did this. So yeah. And that puts us now at, we did 4 trial exhibits today. That puts us at 115 covered so far. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have like 102 left to go. But yeah, so we've done 115 trial exhibits. It's a lot of information. But I really do think it's really important. Oh, and also, I can't believe I almost forgot. I think that the Department of Justice may be violating the Hatch Act. Am I being dramatic or wrong for thinking that? Like, are you kidding me? Since when is the Department of Justice out here blaming an entire political party on something outside of any, like, out of the control of an entire political party? It's like, what? This doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, yeah, I can't believe that. So, do you think the Department of Justice was violating the Hatch Act there? Or I said Hatch Act. Or am I not understanding the application and purpose of it? But this is unethical, right? Like, yeah. So anyway, yeah. I don't know. But who knows? So thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you. I will do a live stream whenever the fuck I feel like it again. And I hope everything works out for all of y'all. And thanks for joining me. Bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeathchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.